mid-October, time to actually tidy up a lot of the young plants that we planted in the last 2 or 3 years. They've got their wire netting surrounds, but as you can see, a lot of greenery has grown up inside the wire netting and is now competing with the plant. So what we need to do is to get inside the wire netting to clean out all the growth and greenery. And that means that next spring, when we come round to spray around these trees and prevent this sort of growth occurring again, we've got bare earth with just a few weeds to spray round, and therefore we're keeping the plant completely clear. And the final piece of the equation is to get the label off the bottom of the plant and put it where we can actually find it in the future at the top of the wire netting. And therefore we've got a nice Crataegus tidied up, cleaned up for the winter, worth having a good bash at the posts, stop any deer or anything else knocking them over. In a year or two's time, we probably won't need the wire netting, but for the moment we just want to protect the plant from nibbling deer or from anything else which could cause it harm. Here we've got a slightly different proposition. We've got a tree that probably doesn't need a wire netting surround, and where we need to probably remove a few lower branches and uplift the tree. So we're getting rid of the old fence posts, and Jamie's using a special pair of secateurs which he uses only for cutting wire netting. This is not to be recommended for anything other than a very old pair of secateurs. And I suppose it's now probably about 4 years since this Crataegus was planted, and it's grown away well, and we don't need the wire netting anymore. So we get rid of that, and obviously we need to clear away the weed growth from around the base, and of course rescue the label. And now we've obviously got no wire netting to put the label on now, so we've got a nice piece of copper wire which we'll attach the label to and put the label up on the tree so that we know exactly what it is for time to come. And we're just going to remove a little bit of the side growth. We're uplifting the tree to improve its shape and habit in the long term. And maybe there's a debate, Jamie, as to whether or not we actually need the second stem. But I think for the moment, probably we just as well leave that second stem. Maybe in a few years more, we might cut it off. It's not coming from below the graft, so it's not whatever the rootstock was that's shooting away. It looks a bit ungainly with 2 leaders like that, but then it is a Crataegus which would naturally grow that way. I think now that we've removed the wire netting, we probably do need a new stake to just make sure that this is tied in for the future. So we got a new stake in place, which we're bashing in. Gone in nicely, and now a nice new tie. One of these ties that, as the tree grows, we can loosen it while still keeping the tie in place. If it blows over now, the stake and the tree will go, but hopefully that won't be the case. So here we've got a nice well-grown young magnolia, but the wire netting for some reason has got crushed, and since this is a magnolia we do want to keep the rabbits away from it, so we need to renew the wire netting, and here we need to remove some side branches as well to uplift this tree to make it grow into a more shapely and better looking tree in the long run. Again, we're going to have to cut through the wire netting, get rid of that, and then have a bit of a tidy up around the base of the plant, get rid of the weed growth. There isn't much here. Our spraying this spring did a pretty good job, but we don't want anything competing with this nice young tree. When it rains, we want the water to go into the ground and water the tree. So now we're just removing 2 or 3 of the lower side branches and using the bow saw just to very gently and quietly removing the side branches. So we're left with one good central leader, which will grow away for the future. And if you look and see, this tree has grown about 3 foot this year, and now hopefully it'll be in much better shape. And finally, back goes a wire netting surround, which isn't crushed to the ground, which takes a bit of twiddling to get the wire netting in a decent circle and joined up together. And then we need a couple of stakes to hold that wire netting in place. We get the stakes in through the wire netting. And then a second stake the other side. So there we are, job done. Plant made ready for the future. Hasn't taken terribly long, but it's extremely important that these little jobs are done with all your newly planted plants to ensure they've got a proper chance of getting away and growing away properly with no competition next spring. Finally, on goes the label, again on a copper wire. And there we are. So we're now in another area of new planting, where, as you can see, we've already cleared around the bases of all these young plants. And also, when you look closely, you can see that we've done a fair little bit of uplifting on the side branches, and quite a bit of uplifting on some of these larger trees where we've cut off bigger side branches. And when you look around, actually you suddenly see something which in 20 years' time will be a fantastic new bit of the garden with Styrax and Stewartia, but it needs the maintenance on an annual basis to make sure you end up with plants being given the absolute best chance to grow into proper trees and shrubs, unencumbered by competition.